Tomorrow, voters in Massachusetts will decide who will fill the seat of Senator Ted Kennedy. And at this late hour, news out of the Republican campaign, reminiscent of the McCain-Palin rallies of 2008. Senator John Kerry is asking candidate Scott Brown to get his supporters, quote, under control. It is now apparently a dead heat, with some of the polling putting the Republican ahead. The latest Research 2000 Daily Kos poll shows Democratic State Attorney General Martha Coakley and Republican State Senator Scott Brown tied at 48. The Coakley campaign in a frantic get-out-the-vote drive, with President Obama risking some of his own political capital, appearing by Coakley's side in Boston.
Where we don't want to go right now is backwards to the same policies that got us into this mess in the first place when we just started to make progress cleaning it up.
Today, Coakley and Brown attending a breakfast honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Coakley spoke at the event, as did Boston Mayor Thomas Menino and Martin Luther King III, and both men urged the crowd to vote to continue President Obama's agenda. Mr. Brown accusing Ms. Coakley of politicizing Dr. King's message, then complained to reporters, "I didn't realize this was a rally for Martha." Something else Mr. Brown didn't realize: stuff you say on camera does not go away after you say it. Video resurfacing of Mr. Brown commenting on then Vice Presidential candidate Sarah Palin in 2008, defending her unwed pregnant teenage daughter, while accusing Mr. Obama of being born out of wedlock.
And quite frankly, Barack's mom had him when she was 18 years old.
And married.
Well, I don't know about that.
Brown is not apologizing for that comment. Instead, he's blaming it on Martha Coakley. Something more disturbing coming out of the Brown campaign: a call to violence against women and other politicians. At one of his rallies, a Brown supporter making a crude reference to Coakley, alluding to a sexual abuse case her office prosecuted.
We can do this.
Brown's camp claims the candidate did not hear the comment. The "we can do it" or "we can do this" statement was in response to the growing energy of the crowd, even though Mr. Brown appears to respond directly to the person making the comment, and there was no noise otherwise heard. The state's senior senator issuing a statement this afternoon asking Mr. Brown to speak up and get his Tea Party supporters under control. "What we've seen in the past few days is way over the line and reminiscent of the dangerous atmosphere of Sarah Palin's 2008 campaign rallies. This is not how democracy works," said John Kerry in Massachusetts. Joining me now, Marcos Melitzis, creator of Daily Kos, as well as author of Taking on the System: Rules for Radical Change in a Digital Era. Marcos, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
This has been trending away from Coakley and towards Brown pretty steadily for many days. Is there any indication that that might reverse for tomorrow, Election Day?
Well, it's looking pretty bleak right now for the Democrats. Absolutely, it's trending away from them. Our poll had it at 48-48. That's probably the most optimistic numbers out of any pollster coming out today. So it does look bleak. I mean, the only thing that might turn things around is that the Democrats have a well-established machine in Massachusetts with the labor unions and so on. If Coakley wins, it's going to be because of that turnout machine, because right now things are looking pretty bleak.
How did it get so bleak? Was it assumption that that machine was going to handle everything and momentum would handle everything and the Kennedy name and memorial to Ted Kennedy would handle everything?
Yeah, I think all of that. I mean, Coakley won her primary, and then she apparently declared mission accomplished and took a nap. And as we've seen in recent years, you really can't take anything for granted in politics. You got to work hard at it. Ted Kennedy never took his voters for granted. He worked hard, even though he was an icon in the state and was going to win big. He never took those voters for granted, and I think the voters responded to that. Coakley did, and of course now she's suffering the effects of that.
The coarseness of her opponent, Mr. Brown, and the coarseness of the race that he has run, has that just not been sufficiently covered by the media, locally or nationally, or has it not been exploited by the Democrats? How did that part of this equation get lost?
Well, the Republicans did a really good job of really running under the radar by not seeming like this was a competitive race. There was no reason for the media to cover this, and so he could go around appealing to his Tea Party conservatives by doing what they do best, which is run on basically regressive agenda. So he was able to do that under the radar. Now it's a week into before the election. The Democrats wake up, they start running hard, and they start running negative, and it looks a little desperate when you do that last minute.
Brown's surge was the only story that Fox News covered last week that was not about Sarah Palin. It has been presented as an augur about everything from the Republicans taking the Senate back to the outcome of 2012, everything except disproving climate change, and they probably just didn't feel like they needed to do that. Assuming it is a Republican win or a close Democratic win, what in fact is the meaning and the context?
I think the meaning is that you can't take anything for granted. The voters are angry. They want sort of populist anger from their candidates, and Brown, the Republican, is offering that. Now, of course, it's fake populism. I mean, he wants the banks in Wall Street to keep all their money. He doesn't want them to pay back the taxpayers. But if you pretend you're a populist and your opponent lets you get away with it, you're going to look pretty good on Election Day.
Well, he's certainly angry enough. Marcus Malitzis of the Daily Kos, as always, great thanks.
Thank you very much.